Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension here in Hernando County, Florida, and I have my regular show host or co-host with me, Lily Browning. Good morning, Lily. How you doing?
I'm great, Bill. How are you?
I'm just great. I'm obviously at the office today, the proper office, so a little not too used to doing it from here, but everything seems to be working so far for the moment.
Well, that's good. Bill, I was wondering, where did you put the sun the last 3 or 4 days?
I don't know. Oh my gosh, it was cold and wet and dark and gloomy yesterday. It was like living up north or something.
I was going to say, it's like me, I would call this a Pennsylvania day the past 3 or 4 days because that's where I'm from.
Yeah, definitely not used to that. And we got a few people on here, which is great. Yay, we got some of the regulars. And want to introduce today's special guest, Mona Neville. Mona works for the Florida Forest Service. You could tell from her uniform. You want to show the patch there? There we go.
Let me see if I can do this. There we go.
Okay, see it.
She's legit.
But Mona is the county forester for Pasco County. And right now, she's the interim or fill-in county forester for Hernando County also. So my guess is the majority of people watching us right now probably had absolutely no idea they had a county forester, because I know a lot of times it comes as a surprise. Not many people know about you guys. So, Mona, why don't you go ahead and share with us kind of basically what you do as a forester and what kind of services the Forest Service can provide to homeowners, residents, people that live here in Hernando and Pasco counties.
So Hernando has been keeping me pretty busy. The main part of what we do is anybody that purchases a piece of property with timber, we assist them in management plans for the timber for Greenbelt agricultural exemption on their property taxes. The minute they get with the property appraiser, they find out my name and they start calling me. So I'll go out and help them manage their property. And I have some that they may only have a couple of acres that may not qualify under Greenbelt, but they still want that management plan. So, but as far as we help any private landowner, and we do what we call shade tree calls. Same thing with them calling into you guys as your master gardener team and asking questions. They can send those same pictures to us. And if they really want someone to come out and IFAS doesn't have the, approval to go out or enough people to drive out there, a lot of times it'll come to us and we drive out and take a look at it and help them out with that. Events from Rotary Talks to kids groups to schools. We have a very big umbrella with a lot of little dangly things underneath it. So I like to tell people, if you would like to hear us talk or need something, always call me, because if it's not something we may be able to do, usually I send them to IFAS. And if IFAS sends them to us. But yeah, we are able to get out and still see people, with the social distance thing within the counties. I personally have a medical issue that I can't right now, but I've done quite a few what we call shade tree calls by pictures through email and, help people out that way.
Oh, we do too. Since COVID hit, the number of questions we've been able to answer either through phone calls or emails or texting pictures or sharing pictures through Facebook has absolutely gone through the roof. And I mean, we can't identify everything from a picture. Sometimes we need a physical sample,
right?
Especially with turf grass and things like that. We have to look under the microscope. But there's an awful lot that we can tell from a picture, a good picture, or a number of pictures. So, yeah, the numbers of our diagnostics has gone through the roof this past year. And there's a lot of times where I get difficult tree questions and I send it to the forester, and our forester would always send the palm tree questions to me for some reason. I'm not sure why. But.
Yes, and even though I've taken your palm tree class, I will continue to send those questions to you.
I don't blame you. Palm trees they're finicky and very picky. But if someone has a tree that they're concerned about, its health, or if it's dying or something like that, it's great to know, the forestry department will come out and give them good advice, and it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
So,
Everything.
and yeah, you may say you need to get an arborist out here and to do this and this trimming or to remove it, but you'll get that opinion from someone who's not trying to sell them anything. So that's
Right. And I get a lot of that where, yes, I'm a certified arborist, but I can't write, a full-on health diagnostic. I can't do a true arborist, safety evaluation of that tree. That has to come from an arborist outside, because we're not trying to take, business away from everybody else, and all the other specialties. And I had one landowner actually in Hernando County that, because of COVID, we couldn't get there. I've been playing phone tag and dealing, helping her out. I say dealing with her. She's a great person. But she sends me all kinds of pictures. And finally, it was actually, I think the week after New Year's, she sent me another picture, and all of a sudden she had sapsuckers attacking her tree. So she had all these little holes. And she was talking to me, and I have an Android phone for work and recently went to iPhone for personal. Why, I don't know, but I did. And I'm still learning. But we actually ended up on FaceTime and her walking around her yard looking at everyone. I'm like, whatever works, it may be my personal number, but hey, we still can. I feel like I could get so much more done for her. So, I mean, I resort to those options, being as I can't, drive right now because I'm in a nice little boot, but hey, whatever it takes to help the landowners.
And people are seeing their therapists that way, so why not see their tree therapist that way, the same way?
If I can help, I'm going to help.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had people send us videos of their questions and problems. And my coworker, Lisa Sanderson, over in Sumter County, does a very similar thing to this, virtual plant clinics, where it's her and her master gardeners on there, and people can kind of come and go. They have a scheduled time. People can log on, and a lot of people will, through Zoom, go on to Zoom through their phone, and they take their phone and they walk out in their backyard and show Lisa and the master gardeners what's wrong with their tree or plant or whatever, live through their phone. And it really helps. It's, it's new technology, and we're still working on figuring it out and becoming proficient, but it's great. The days of having to cut off a branch or take a day off of work to come to our office and catch us while we're here and show us in person, you don't always have to do that anymore.
Yeah. And just, to throw it out there, being, the class I did with you last night, we have people from out of state and even all over Florida. So here in our forestry district, which is 5 counties, Pasco, Hernando, Citrus, Sumter, and Lake, we're lucky enough, normally, when we're fully staffed, to have a county forester in every county. Right now, that's not the case. But say the district below us, which is Polk, Hillsborough, and Pinellas, they have 1 county forester for 3 counties. So you may have a county forester directly in your county, but every county is covered by a county forester somewhere along the way. So even if you're not from our area, or I have a lot of people that have property outside of our area but live here right now, and they bought a piece of property in North Florida, they'll reach out to me, and I may not know what's going on up, or all the trees up in Mariana, North Florida Panhandle, but I get them in touch with their county forester up there.
And what I think people don't realize is they hear forester, so they think you are only involved with state forests or national forests or whatever. They don't realize that you try to manage the overall urban forest, which is all the trees all around us. So
yes. And I was born and raised in Pasco County, Central Pasco. And when I went to forestry school, I didn't take urban forestry because I didn't like the concrete jungle. And so now here and during COVID, I have taken several classes for urban forestry because, we're just building and building and building. And it's, what I thought it was even then going to school is not what it is now that I'm here. Our title is actually CFA, or Cooperative Forestry Assistance. And that's where it comes in, that we do a little bit of everything. I can't even list everything we do or what we could do. And I know our old county forester, before she took a promotion in Hernando County, used to work with master gardeners all the time up in Hernando County. And, you know, we're hoping to get a county forester soon, but, you know, budget wise, doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll go back to having our own dedicated forester, but you're great to work with. And I was very easy to reach out and put together something for Florida Arbor Day, which is coming up 2 days from now on Saturday, technically.
Friday.
I'm not sure what the official day is.
The official day is the third Friday of January. So it'll be tomorrow.
That's right. And we would always do something in person on that Saturday so that people who work could still attend.
And most municipalities around our counties have postponed any events till April, which is National Arbor Day.
Yeah. And that's still a good time of year to put a tree in. Really, any time of year is an okay time to put a tree in.
Yeah, Florida's pretty.
Yeah.
We're pretty forgiving around here anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mona, you sent me a picture that somebody had sent you of a magnolia tree. So let me go ahead and see if I can dig into my email here and we'll find a picture. Can you guys see that one?
It's sideways.
Okay. But you
really
can see just one picture and now it's standing upright.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's all working. That looks like a magnolia tree. And it looks really unhappy also. It doesn't look very healthy.
No, and that's how the email came in was, you know, what do we do about this? They're a few years old. They don't know exactly for whatever reason. It's in a community area. So looking through the pictures, you know, and I even sent them to our forest health guy, Jeff Icourt in Gainesville, because I'm like, am I missing something on some of the close up ones? And we kind of determined that, you know, possibly the mulch is a little too high, or more than likely, without getting out there and actually, again, like we were talking about before, you know, we try to get out there and inspect it ourselves. But right now I have that limitation. So we're assuming it's probably buried a little too deep because there are others in that community that are 3 times the size and the same age. So now I'm being asked of, you know, kind of that island area, what tree should they replace? And I'm kind of throwing a few around. So I was like, hey, this would be a good time to get a couple other opinions like we like to do in our realm of forestry.
Yeah, it looks like from the picture, it probably was either buried too deep or they put so much mulch on that bed that for all practical purposes, now it's buried too deep. Because I know our previous forester, Nicole, she told me one time that she would go out and do a lot of house visits, people who paid landscapers to bring in a decent sized oak tree or some other kind of tree and plant it in their yard, and now it's dying. She said 9 times out of 10 when she looked at it, it had been planted too deep. So that's something that probably a lot of people might not. A lot of people always think, oh, my tree looks bad. It must be an insect, or it must be a disease, or maybe I need to water or fertilize more. No, with trees, a lot of times it's just planted too deep, and that will kill a tree.
And if it's hanging on to the leaves, but they're droopy, that's a pretty bad sign. It's better if it grew off its leaves, you know, and trying to heal itself.
Yeah, I think it's just been there a little too long for it. And I see a lot of that either, you know, the mulch is too deep and it's been too deep for too long and there's kind of no saving it. And then when you dig down the mulch a little bit, you know, and some of them will try to move some of that mulch out and hopefully it'll, you know, heal itself, you know, and come back to life a little bit. But a lot of times the other thing I find is, you know, the strapping was left on the tree too long, or, you know, those are a lot of things I see in the community developments. Not so much the, you know, homeowner planted a tree, but the strapping or the burlap, you know, the plastic on the bottom, you know, there's all kinds of fun ones. And of
Yeah,
course,
because nobody was left in charge. That's why.
I want to ask you two, do you get in trouble by the significant others and the families in your lives when you guys go somewhere and you drive into Walmart's parking lot and you talk about how bad they did? And
No, they just
get in trouble for that all the time.
No, they just stopped listening.
When you're like, leave work at work, I'm like, when you're a forester, you can't. You drive by and you're
I just showed a picture in the last class, I think, that Bill and I did together. I took it in a restaurant parking lot, and I had to be, no, wait, we can't go anywhere yet. I got to get this row of moaning myrtles, is what I call them. These severely pruned crepe myrtles. He's used to it. He just ignores it. And Bill's life.
It makes for great photo opportunities. So I have an entire folder with a lot of different photos, and I got tree pictures. I got a lot of palm pictures. Let me see. If you give me a moment, I'll scroll through here and I'll pick out some interesting pictures. And a lot of times, homeowners do things to their trees that they really shouldn't do. But unfortunately, a surprisingly large number of times, is professionals that will trim palms or do something really incorrect as far as caring for them.
I keep trying to catch the crepe murder webinar from IFAS here in Pasco so I can watch it and learn the crepe murder, because my dad commits that every couple of years. And even though I've told him, I'm like, don't do that. And I pulled up IFAS documents about it. And dad continues to commit crepe murder. And then when it takes a couple of years for it to bloom back, mom's kind of mad, I'm like.
That's what, and I have a demonstration that Bill filmed of me pruning my crepe myrtle a couple years ago, wasn't it? And that's pinned to the top of my FFL Facebook page. So, and there's other people out there. There's this one lady from South Carolina I found on YouTube who has, real good directions on how to prune the crepe myrtle. But I talk about it a lot this time of year, and people, they do it because everybody else does it. So they think it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Can you see a picture of Lily in front of her unhappy crepe myrtle?
Oh, let's not show that picture.
I have quite a few that I've taken or other people have sent to me. And people, even the professionals, don't necessarily know how to properly care for trees.
Yeah, Bill has a photograph of me in front of a poor hat-racked crepe myrtle where I'm frowning. I won't tell you where it was taken, but I'll tell you it was a place that I pass by every single day. And, sometimes you can't even control, like you said, your dad or the people right near around you. They just. Yeah. And a lot of times what it is, they'll say, well, it gets too big. And that goes back to Florida Friendly Landscaping Principle number 1, right plant, right place. The white ones, I think they're like one of the oldest varieties, Natchez. If you don't know if you've noticed, they always bloom first. That's just kind of anecdotal, but they're going to get big. They're going to get 40 feet tall. If you have a smaller space, you need to get a dwarf variety. And there's so many of them out there now. They're making new ones all the time. There's one called Black Diamond that I know. There's a Publix here on Mariner and Northcliffe. That Publix, I wouldn't go now. They're going to just look like sticks. But, in the summer, if you go, you'll see they planted Black Diamond crepe myrtles. The leaves are so incredibly dark green, they look almost black. And then they have yellow and the pink flowers just really pop out against them. I think they're really cool. And they're not going to get too tall. There's some beautiful palms.
Yes, they are. And that's a picture one of my master gardeners sent me. And that's a municipal situation where municipal workers pruned them up good, pruned them up really tight. And And that's just absolutely terrible for a palm tree. That's going to shorten the life of them. I would think that that would make them over time a little bit less safe. And they're awfully tall and thin and spindly. When you over prune palms, they lose a lot of nutrients for a little while. And then if you look at that trunk very carefully for a little bit, as you go up, it'll kind of curve in. It's called pencil necking because the palm tree was starved for a certain period of time. And if it has a pencil neck somewhere in the middle, do you know what happens when we get a hurricane or a tropical storm? Do you know where it's going to snap? Right there. So that's something else that can make for unsafe palm trees. So of course we don't recommend that, but you don't have to look too hard or drive around too far to find examples of people doing that.
You know what that looks like to me? Way back, way back in the typewriter days, when we had those little things that were like you could erase and then it had the on the end that you put that away. That's what those palm trees look like.
They have those in photography too for the film. Yeah, but that's a little duster.
Yes, yeah, or drafting. People have those.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally, I do not care for palms. Yes, we live in Florida, you know, this, that, the other. I have one in my front yard that it has one point of somebody over pruned it and it penciled. But I'm waiting for the day that somebody drives by and says, "Oh, I want that tree. Can I come dig it out?" Granted, they're going to need a truck, but they can have it if they want it. I just.
Yeah.
You know, that will happen if you have large palms, like mature palms, and not so much for a cabbage palm or something that's really common, but for slightly more unusual ones, a large Pindo palm or Sylvester or maybe Bismarck. You will have companies come by and put a note on your door that they want to buy that palm tree. And they'll pay you a couple $100 for it.
They need to drive through Zephyr Hills.
They'll put it on a flatbed truck and they'll take it away because they want that for a new shopping center or office building that's being built. Because those people don't want a little brand new 6-foot tall baby palm. They want full-size palms when they build the shopping center. So
I don't know. Bill, is BJ on here today? Is BJ on today? Because she has a great palm story about planting things too deeply and stuff like that. Is she on today?
I don't know. We'll have to ask. No. I'm sure.
I always share her story, and it involves palms and a community that called her out. They had like an avenue of the palms, and some were dying.
Oh, she told me that also. It was in front of a school.
Oh, okay, a school.
Okay.
And some were dying, and she asked them, "How did you get all these palms exactly the same size? That's amazing. They're all the exact same height." And they said, "Oh, well, the ones that, you know, were too tall, we just planted them deeper so we would have that consistent look." Guess which ones were dying? So that just tells you about, you know, planting too deep.
I think it was
planting high is better.
It was somewhere between here and Bradenton, when I used to live down there, prior to my school days, and the state had done that along the interstate. And I noticed it, and I'm like, why are those, you know, but they were trying to get them all the same height on the interstate, and it was pretty bad looking afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it may look great as soon as they're done with it and you stand there and look at it, but 6 months or a year later, half of them are dying and people are wondering why. And they're thinking that, well, maybe if I water them more or put down more fertilizer, that'll fix it. No, that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, at 54 and 75, they're digging out on the side of the interstate and they're putting in these little brick walls. And my mom and I seem to think they're probably putting palms in, being Wesley Chapel's really building up. So I'm curious to see what goes in and when, and do the progression pictures if I can remember, and do it safely in that intersection because it's a little crazy. But
yeah, at 50 and I-75, they have the same boxes, and at least they have a variety of plant material in there. There are palms. What else is there? I think there might be some cedars and magnolias also, but there are There is more than just palm trees.
Yeah, I haven't been up that side in months, so.
Yeah, and I haven't been over to 1575 since it was just a mess. I haven't been there since they put plants in. I think they're doing that because they want that look. You know, you get off each exit and, you know, palm tree means Florida. So that's what, you know, the kind of look they're going to give people that, ooh, I'm in Florida kind of feel.
They started doing that.
Kind of like how they used to
several years
have.
ago.
They used to give you, you know, the orange juice when you went to the welcome center. You know, you gotta, they kind of give you some of that feel back. Queen palm question, Bill.
Here we go. So Annie's neighbor has a couple of queen palms that were the same height when planted 4 years ago, and now they're growing to different heights. Over time, that can happen. It depends on the exact plant, its genetics, the exact soil that it's in. Usually, if they're all planted together, the soil is going to be very, very similar in that spot. But for a lot of different reasons, over time, some will start to grow faster and look better than others.
Well, if they are reaching for the sun, then I would say that they may be in too shady of an area. If some of them have that phototropism going, trying to find the sun.
No, I would think that they're all shooting towards the sun, and apparently at least one of them is not winning the race.
It could have been planted too deeply. Yeah, all sorts of things. If we keep getting these cold snaps, I'm not sure how many of our queens are going to make it. We've been okay so far, but if it gets in the below 20, you could lose your queen palms. People don't realize that.
Yeah. I have one that came with the house, and it's right up, as a matter of fact, a little bit too close to the house, and it's doing just fine. I need to go out there and prune the seed pods
there are
off.
Queen palms
Flowered again.
everywhere, but you know, it's not been a while, but it's not unusual for us to see temperatures in the teens. And if we see that for a sustained period of time, we're going to see a bunch of very sad and dead queen palms.
It happens, and people forget that, especially people who are new to the area and they've only been here for 1, 2, 3 years and they haven't seen a really cold winter. They come on a regular basis. It's going to happen again. This winter has been colder than recently, and I haven't looked at any exact numbers about the temperature averages or anything, but we've had a number of doses of cold over a pretty extended period of time also.
Mm-hmm. And it's only January.
Exactly. So a few things that may be really good for, if you have flowering fruit trees, things like peaches, plums, nectarines, maybe even loquats and other fruiting trees, they tend to really like an extra dose of cold. So a lot of them, as long as we don't have a really late freeze that knocks the flowers and the little baby fruit off, will probably flower, and you may get a bumper crop of fruit off of it. I know a number of years ago, I had like 2 or 3 plum trees in my backyard, and we had a really cold winter. This is probably 10 years ago. Long, really cold winter. Oh my gosh, those trees, they flowered like crazy. I got 2 or 3 bushels of fruit off of just a couple trees. Mm-hmm. Best harvest I ever got because they love that extra cold weather.
They need the chilling hours. Yep.
Exactly. But if you're growing tropical plants, they may end up completely dead from temperatures in the 20s. So good and bad.
Linda has an interesting question there about the state tree.
Okay. We'll have Mona answer that one. What is the state tree? Live oak?
No, it's the cabbage palm.
I was going to say, it's a palm, your favorite tree.
Should be live oak. Yeah, it's a cabbage palm.
Well,
which isn't even a tree.
You have a disease that affects them now, which is not a good thing.
Right.
And my thing is, it's a state tree, and like you just said, it's not even a tree. It's like so.
Yeah.
As a forester, it's like I don't know much. People call me, out for timber, and they're like, "Hey, I have this area of pasture here, or my lawn, and what is this?" And I'm like, "I'll take some pictures and send to Diapus because I don't know about grass." But yeah, the palm trees, I think a live oak. I mean, they're all over Florida. I don't care if it's North Florida, South Florida, we have live oaks. But it's one of those that for some reason back in the day, that's what was put. And I'm not,
I haven't heard of any movements, to have it changed. But if
Yeah.
there's surveys going out that Linda got, maybe there's something we don't know about. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
I had a long, involved conversation. I was out with a friend Saturday, went to Payne's Prairie. That was my first time there. That was really cool. But she kept asking me the difference between a cabbage palm and a sable palm, and I would say nothing. It's the same tree. And I can see where she was coming from. She would say the cabbage palms have those boots, whatever you want to call them, those spikes that come out. And what she thought were sable palms were, it's all smooth and everything. And I was trying to tell her, no, that's just what happens. And finally, we saw a tree that was in the middle of transitioning, I should say. It still has some of those spikes coming up, but then it was smooth, the rest of the way up. And I'm like, see, there you go. It's still the same tree. It's just two names for the same exact tree. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and that's all just genetics. A number of different types of palm trees. Washingtonians do the same thing. It could be the exact same species, even from the same group of seeds or plants. One is going to hold on to its boots forever. The other one will never hold on to them. And a lot of times they'll grow and hold on to them up until they reach a certain age, and then they all start to fall off. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's wondering, boots are those little stumps from where either you pruned one of the leaves off your palm tree or it broke off and came down naturally all on its own. And we just got a question, Teresa did just within the last week or so. A lady very new to the area, very concerned her palm tree was dying because all the bark was falling off, and it was just the boots falling off. Okay. Which is totally okay. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the tree. Palm trees can be really funny. They have little minds of their own, and what they do with their boots is, varies from tree to tree. So yeah, cabbage palms are all the same species. Some hold on to their boots, other ones don't.
Mm-hmm. And Bill, maybe you have an answer to this because you're the palm guy. When it comes to those, some arborists and tree services, when they trim a palm, they'll shave those off instead of letting them naturally fall. That's good, okay, but then I've heard it's really bad to let it, I ideally say let them fall off, but maybe you can specify.
You can, if it's loose and about to fall off, you can give it that extra jiggle and take it off. But I do see services, and I saw this done to a cabbage palm. I had a neighbor, and they moved here from Connecticut, and they just didn't know any better. And they paid their guy, gosh, I think I got some video of him. It was pretty amazing how he put the ladder up on the front hood of his pickup truck and climbed up that cabbage palm with a chainsaw thrown over his shoulder and didn't die in the process. But he was taking it and he was just shaving the boots, just grinding it down like that chainsaw was a piece of sandpaper. That is terrible for a palm tree. One reason why is palm trees, there is an insect called the palmetto weevil. It's a really big weevil. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it, but I do have one here in the office. Let me move. There we go. Let me move my hand over to this side. So you can see this is a big beetle, and they do feed on palm trees, and they're attracted to palm trees when they're damaged. So if a palm tree gets hit by a bolt of lightning, it's going to die pretty quickly, and it gives off a scent that attracts the beetles. Any kind of damage or broken trunk on the palm tree is going to attract beetles. If you cut off a bunch of leaves, it gives off a smell that attracts beetles. When you shave all the boots with a chainsaw and create nothing but open wounds up there, it gives off a lot of the smell that's going to attract beetles. So those people like that will tend to have a lot more problems with palmetto weevils killing their trees because they attract them. But yeah, don't shave palm trees. That's really, really bad for them.
Well, the boots, if you get them after they first fall off and they're, just starting to dry out, we haven't had too much rain. They're great reindeer antlers at Christmas.
They are. They really are. Yes.
I do a few little craft projects. So those are always, it's like, oh, let me get some antlers, and people are like,
it's Florida Christmas right there. I was just wondering what kind of people have dead weevils lying around on their desk ready to pick up at a moment's notice. I mean, that's just
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, doesn't everybody?
Well, I know our forest health person, Jeff Eichort.
We have termite crafts, and it's just show and tell day here on Bill's desk at work.
Yeah, every now and then we'll find some interesting ones, and it never fails. I find something interesting, and I don't have my vials to collect it, I
always do.
I a lot of times I have the vials, but it's like I'm 2 acres in and my truck's out further, and it's like, okay, let me put you in my pocket and see if this works. And I'm losing it. But what you were saying about the beetles being attracted to the palm when it's, stress, dying / overly cut, open wounds, that is one of the majority calls I get on the urban aspect, as I call it, the shade trees, is my pine tree has just up and died. And with pine trees, there's the SPB or southern pine beetle. They are not prejudiced over whether the tree is healthy or stressed out. They take them all out, and it's very devastating. Loblolly is their chocolate cake, and it goes down the list of pines. And we have some loblolly in Pasco, but hardly any. It kind of stops in Hernando. And we've had a case of it here or there, but we put out pine beetle traps for those to kind of see what the levels are going to be for the year. Ideally, we do flights every year from air and monitor the whole entire county, all the land, treed area, forested area of the counties, to see if we see an possible infestation spot, and then we'll GPS it from the air and then go down and ground truth it. But aside from them, that's what most people hear about, is those horrible ones. But we also have Ips and black turpentine beetles, and those, call them the Kevorkians of pine trees, because as the palm beetle, they do the same thing. The tree tracks them in when they've had enough and they're just ready to die, and they come in and finish them off. And normally by the time you see all the needles browning and the tree is actually dead, those are gone, and all the after feeders are in having their smorgasbord of leftovers. But I get a lot of calls on that. And, you may have 5 trees in your yard and 3 may die. The biggest problem I have is, of course, I can't, like you guys, can't go out and say, well, this is, yes, this beetle probably came in and finished it off, but I can't tell you what stressors it actually had.
Right.
So a lot of times I use the analogy of we can all live in the same household, and one of us will get the flu and the other one won't. Eat the same things, we kind of do the same things. So the trees are the same way, but that's one of the most often calls I get, is they think they have southern pine beetle. And on Facebook, I don't know if you're aware, Bill, you probably are, and Lily, there is a Southern Tree Health and Diagnostic page.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I love that page. There's times that, I just can't quite, I need a break from staring at the computer and writing something. So what do? I stare at my phone, but I go through and I read the comments, and some of those are just amazing. So actually, there was one on there by our forest health guy, Jeff, where he went for a walk the other day, just a typical nature walk, and he found all the versions of beetles, and he posted them all in pictures. And
I saw that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Man, I want to go for a hike in the woods with him.
When we're allowed to travel again, Jeff has come down to Hernando County with myself and our previous forester, Matt Stevens, and we went to like 3 different properties, and all us county foresters rushed up to Hernando County to hang out. Yeah. We learned so much. So Jeff does, if we have a situation where we got quite a few weird things going on that we just can't quite figure out, Jeff will do site visits with us down here.
Yeah, let me know if and when he ever has to come back to town. I'd be more than happy to tag along and learn a lot. I've attended. Are you familiar with Dr. Yuri Holzer? at
Yes.
University of Florida,
Yep.
the bark beetle and ambrosia beetle expert. I attended a couple-day class of his in Gainesville a couple years ago, all on bark beetles and ambrosia beetles, and boy, he is an expert, and he's fun to go for a walk in the woods with because you're going to learn a lot.
You actually, I mean, any of those up there, and I mean, even with you, Bill, I've learned a lot. Like, you can't retain it all. You have to like even your palm clinic. Like, I want to do it again because I couldn't retain. I mean, I have a file full of probably every slide you had up on the screen that day, but there was just so much, I can't retain it all. So yeah, I mean, going out with them, and even, you know, they're so open to us sending them pictures, and, you know, I say, hey, this is what I see, but am I missing something? And on occasion I've missed something here or there. Jeff has also taken some of the stuff I sent to him and then posted it on the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't like posting, but, you know.
Well, I've posted questions on there where I thought I knew what the cause was or what was going on. I'm just looking for verification or if I'm missing something. And the other members of that group, there's an urban forester in Texas that commented, and people with forestry, people with extension. Yeah, you're going to get some of the best experts in the world commenting on your questions on that page.
What I think the general homeowner doesn't realize, like Mona said, because 20 years ago, southern pine beetle came through Hernando County and was a major problem, or all of Central Florida, I guess. And so they see a pine tree with a problem, they automatically think the beetle they've heard of. And the most devastating one was the southern pine beetle. What they don't realize, like you said, there are Ips beetles, there are many other types of beetles that are just part of the natural world. They're almost, you know, they're like the vultures, you know, for plants though. So if the plant is already in distress and sending out those pheromones that I'm in distress, that's what attracts the beetles. It's all part of the natural world. It's not always something that's going to be a major catastrophe.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will think that it's the beetles that killed their tree, and then they start asking, what can I spray? How can I get rid of them? And you have to explain, no, it's because the tree was stressed. And I explained, pine trees do not make for a good urban or suburban front yard kind of tree. They hate to be, they do not want to be messed with. They want to be left alone to live in the woods. They hate to be watered. They hate when you fertilize the lawn above them. They really hate it when you put out weed killers on the lawn above them also. And they can just naturally suffer from either too much rain, like too wet of a summer, or drought, like a very, very dry spring, and get stressed. And then the beetles are just going to have a field day and finish those trees off one by one.
I went to a gated community here with Nicole, the former forester, several years ago. And I remember her mentioning, you know, because they want everything to look really nice, but they've left the native pines there. And she was just saying, oh my gosh, what they're doing to these pines. You know, they don't want to be on an irrigation system. They don't want to be fertilized with all that turf grass and everything. And it's it's kind of ironic that the name of the community is named after the pines. There, I just gave it away where I was. But
been there a few times.
Yeah, Nicole said she went there a lot, and they've had problems for years.
But because they were loving the pines too much, and they're introverts, they want to be left alone so they can be healthy. So
yeah, I got called
hard
out
to mix them in with a managed landscape.
Yeah, there's some right across the entrance from that little portion of the golf course at the entrance to explain to them that the runoff, you know, because it's actually across the road where the other pines were, is a retention pond, you know, so the pond's not full. It's just like a seasonal overflow. But it's like, at times, we know with Florida rains, there's water in there. So all that stuff going on the golf course, of course, is no good whatsoever. I've been there quite a few times, looked at some oaks in there too. And that's a learning curve for myself and Jeff Eichort is great again with it, is, you know, the weed and feeds, the fertilizers going down. I have a neighborhood here in Pasco over towards Land O'Lakes, Lutz area. The name of the it's not like a gated development or anything, but old school, 50, 70 years ago got put in, and it's called Sierra Pines. And a friend of mine from high school lived out there. So I spent a lot of time out there before I ever became a forester, but I got called out there by a landowner, and it was all old growth, longleaf pine, but they're actually butt swelling like a cypress tree would. And it was not too far from that is one of the well fields, and they quit pumping quite as much water out. So our water table has actually come up a little bit, in some areas, and with the development around that older area, of course, they build everything higher and drier than what's been there for 70 years. So the flooding per se from development, trees are they're inundated in water more than they should be. So they've actually tried to, their root systems are coming out of the ground like hardwoods would to breathe. It's not normal for pines.
Yeah. I think I saw something I don't even remember where I was, but I saw a little pine knee, like you would see a cypress knee. And I was what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm to the point I like to joke around and say, Bill, you said something about 10 years ago we had, a normal cold winter, and we haven't really seen that.
Yeah.
So, people that have lived here long enough that over 10 years, not just moved here in the last couple, they understand me when I say 10 years ago, Mother Nature quit taking her meds.
You're right.
Back on them because I have 6 pine trees that Arthur Clothier at a Sumter county forester over there planted when he was a county forester in Pasco. I watched them, I would say last year, but it must have been the year before because I was still at work, somewhere along the way, whatever COVID has done to us, whatever year that was. One of them put off new growth every month from October to April, 3 times. So I'm just waiting for Ipsum black turpentine beetles to come in because I know they're already, we don't put a lot of weed and feed and stuff down or anything like that. They're just naturally growing, but it's not the best ideal place for them. And at the same time, the weather wise, we can look at the calendar and say, wow, it's kind of cold, but it's still kind of fall. It's not winter yet.
Right.
Or it's wintertime and not summertime because it's 82 outside. But the trees don't look at the calendar. So they start new growth, and that's one of the big things is people don't realize their tree shot off new growth 4 times in be kind of sort of the dormant into the growing season. So by the time next winter rolls around, they have no nutrients stored up because they've used it all. So they get stressed and the bugs come in and start affecting them.
Look at the azaleas. They're out there blooming 6 weeks early because they're so confused.
They're always confused though. You can find azaleas that are going to put out a little flower or two pretty much every month of the year.
Yeah, certain types, but I mean the old room, this color of my shirt, those azaleas, they're full bloomed. I'm what are you doing?
They'll bloom early, and if we have a really late freeze, it'll knock all the flowers off.
Yeah, well.
So if we don't have a late freeze, it should look just great. So Annie has a question about her papaya trees again. And I am not an expert with determining the sexes of papaya trees, but she's trying to determine the sexes of her 4 papaya trees. She's curious if they're hermaphrodite. Papayas are kind of unique because they could be male, female, or hermaphrodite. And that's going to determine whether you get fruit or not. If you have a fully male plant, you're not going to get fruit on it. But if you have a bunch of female plants, you're going to need a male plant somewhere in the neighborhood to get fruit on your papaya. I've been told it is possible for them to change sex if a nail is inserted into the trunk. Sounds awful. I agree, it does sound awful, and I've never heard that one before. Can they be changed to female? My guess is no. I do not know of any way to force that plant to change sex, although sometimes with plants and occasionally animals, those really unusual things can happen.
But you don't think the nail thing must be something to do with iron, I guess, would be where that legend came from, but I'm not.
It may be stress also.
Oh yeah, could stress it out, yeah.
Because fruit trees, let's say you have a fruit tree and it just never flowers and gets fruit, if you go around it with a shovel and drive the shovel in so you're hitting some of the roots and really stressing it out, one stress response for trees and other plants is to flower and make fruit. Because they think, oh, we're going to die, we better make babies. And that's, when a tree flowers and fruits, that's what it's trying to do.
Sounds like tree abuse.
It does. So honestly, I've never heard of the nail thing. My guess is that kind of falls under old wives' tales or something you may learn from your next door neighbor or brother-in-law or something. One effective way to try to get more variety between the sexes so that you'll have both male and female and you're going to get plenty of fruit is to plant more papayas. Hedge your bets.
Yeah. There's got to be boys and girls mixed in there somewhere.
Exactly.
Or how about when you go to the nursery, get the ones that are fruiting. You have females.
They have to get they have to actually be flowering for you to determine what sex they are. You figure that out from looking at the flowers. So if it's just a little plant and it hasn't flowered yet, you can't tell until it grows up and flowers. Same thing with certain hollies. You have
I was going to say hollies and things like that. Mona would know more than I, but it's going to react to what's going on in nature and what the needs are in that community, that plant community, I would think.
I believe there are insects that can change sex.
Chickens.
Really?
Chickens can, yeah. Go ask Miss Nancy.
You're making that up, are you?
I'm not making that up.
Okay. Well, you grew up in Mazartown.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see?
So she definitely knows about chickens.
Lily is one of our go-to chicken experts.
I know not that much about chickens, but I do know that.
Yeah, so there's a visible difference between the male flowers and the female flowers, and you can tell from looking at the pictures. And she heard about the nail idea from another gardener, and she won't use it. I definitely look a little bit deeper into that one. I mean, potentially sticking a nail into a plant like a papaya it's going to leave a spot or a hole for diseases and insects to get in. It may not be good for the plant. It may not damage it badly at all. We have somebody, who I think Facebook user might be, Lily?
I think it's Rita.
I think it is too. Okay. I never knew that she was so shocked. She was such a lurker that she's just going to kind of stalk us under the name Facebook.
I think she gave herself away last week saying she was in the nursery.
Yeah. So papayas, it takes 12 to 18 months, and that depends on where you live. It'll take longer in Hernando County. It doesn't take long at all in Miami. You're in Pinellas, so it's kind of, between the two. That's when it's going to be a male or female is when the flowers are out.
There could be more than one Facebook user, too. Could be just people not giving their names.
There could be. We may have a whole bunch of stalkers on here. So Annie wants to know, if they're hermaphrodite, will they remain sexless forever? I'm not sure, because we really don't grow papayas a lot here in Hernando County. You can, and you see some, but not an awful lot. I'd have to look that up. I'm not really on top of my sexual reproduction of papayas at the moment. Maybe Rita will jump back in with a comment on that.
Well, I'll reach out to my tropical plant guy, county forester in South Florida, and if I come, if he has some information on, papayas like he does the avocado, I will definitely have him get a hold of you, Bill. And
we have the same. I took, not that many years ago when I was still in school, I was able to take a summer course down at the University of Florida's Research Center in Homestead. And I was down there for the whole summer. During the week, I'd come back, home on the weekends. And it was on tropical fruits. And it was taught by Dr. Jonathan Crane, who's an expert. He works with all the tropical fruit growers down there, the commercial people. And every morning we'd be in class, and every afternoon we'd pile in the vehicles and we'd go and we would tour mangoes and avocados and papayas and mamey's and every other kind of tropical fruit down there. We went and saw pretty much all of Homestead, and it was great. Homestead's a great town. Pretty much most of the year they have a lot of roadside stands. You can just swing in and buy fresh off the tree mangoes and all kinds of other tropical fruits.
I've never been that far south.
I actually was sent down on an urban strike team deployment with the county forester there. When we have big storms and things, the municipalities can request our urban strike team to come in and do stuff. So I went down there for 2 weeks, and when we're doing this inventory of trees and damage of trees down there for the municipalities, I talk about learning trees. I seen more trees down there that I have never seen up in this area. Like the I've been is like Alligator Alley. I'd never been south of that. So going to Miami for 2 weeks, and I'm like, the county forester down there, Mark, he's like, you've learned a lot. You're getting good. That was like a week and a half in of, 9, 10, 12-hour days, and he'd be like, okay, what tree is that? I'm like, Mark, there's not even a leaf left on this one. How do you?
Yes.
So I learned a lot, and I've sent him a couple of pictures of trees here. I'm like, Mark, I know what this tree is, but it's like, I know I learned it down there, and some have it up here. And he's like, oh, you need to let me know how that grows. I mean, it shouldn't grow up there. So we're starting to
its own world.
Trees.
It's its own world down there. All kind of stuff that we don't, because we don't deal with it. We don't know, those. All we know is, that's not for here, and
Yeah, and people love to push the envelope. So you'll have, you take those tropical trees. Many of them won't do well here, but you always have an exception to the rule. And somebody will end up with a very large, very healthy tropical tree in their yard, and they send you pictures. What is this? So I don't know. I'll find out, but I don't know off the top of my head. You have the only one in Spring Hill. I've gotten pictures before. I got pictures from a lady who said, I live in Spring Hill. I just bought the house. We just moved in. And here's some pictures of a tree that's in my backyard. I have no idea what it is. I opened the picture, and it's a picture of a mango, a beautiful mango. She had a huge, beautiful, no freeze damage and no disease damage mango tree. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have a mango tree, and it's big and it's beautiful. You probably have about the only one in Spring Hill. You don't see them that often, and when you do, they get a lot of freeze damage. But she must have had it just between the soil, the location, temperature,
microclimate,
perfect microclimate, and had a big, beautiful mango tree. So there's exceptions to every rule.
And sometimes I think that has a lot to do with the person, because I know when it comes to plants, I try to make my yard look nice and have all these pretty plants, but I don't know what I do, but I can tell you how to take care of them. Don't ask me to take care of them. I'll babysit your dog, your cat.
That story that the shoemaker's kids don't have any shoes.
I can't grow.
I'll be looking at 3 shoemakers right here.
I let the significant other take care of all the plants and, all of it. I'm like, I ain't touching it. I know I'm going to kill it.
Okay, guys, if you have any other further forestry or tree questions you'd like to send to Mona, there is her email right there, mona.neville@fdax.gov. And if you have any really, really hard lawn and garden questions,
wlester@ufl.edu.
Send them right here to Lily. There's Lily's long email address.
And I know how to forward them right to Bill. So, no. Well, between us, we know a lot of smart people.
And send the easy questions right here.
Yeah, we may, like we've said many times, we may not know, but we'll find someone who does. It may take us a minute.
Yes.
But that's what's great about, the working relationship between forestry and UF and, IFAS and even, the county municipalities. I mean, we reach out to everybody. So
Exactly.
it's been great, and I think we help a lot of people by having those working relationships. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
A lot
those
of times-
emails and
a lot of
pictures
times I
like
can
to
answer
bounce
you.
around a bit.
Yeah. Or a lot of times I may send it to Bill, or I may send it to like 5 people I know that, one of them is going to find out the answer for me.
Yeah, it might be an easy forward of 1 or 2 people, or it might be people and you got to wait a couple of days for responses.
Right.
I've gotten a lot of good information by sending it to 5.
It's like the buckshot way. Somebody's
Yeah.
going to have the answer.
Exactly. See who's in their office and is going to respond to my email first.
Yes.
And now that address scrolling at the bottom of your screen, www.hernandoextension, all one word.com. If you go there, you will see a complete listing of all of our upcoming classes, all of mine, all of Lily's, everybody else in the office, future virtual plant clinics, the exact times and dates and links and all the information you need to know to be able to tune in. And there's the phone number for the office. If you have a burning question, you call. Teresa is the one who will answer it. And hopefully
That's where all the hard questions should go. They should all go to Teresa.
Exactly. Yeah. Send them all to Teresa. Next week I'll put her email on here. We'll just call her.
Poor Teresa.
Yeah. And she'll work really hard to find you that answer too. Yes. That's what I love about Master Gardeners and everyone who works with IFAS and with forestry and all that. You ask them a question, you're never going to hear from them, I don't know. What you're going to hear is, I don't know. I got to find that out too, just have these inquisitive minds. So.
Well, when I'm training the Master Gardeners, I tell them, don't expect to become an expert or think that you need to know as much as I do, because half the stuff that walks in the front door, people walk in here with a picture or a leaf or a bug or a plant or something, and I look at them and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll know what it is. We'll
That's
figure it
how I
out.
learn.
We'll get the picture off, but
I've been in this field for 6 years now, and it took me a little while and some other, colleagues to, I always have that fear of like, I hate saying I don't know. I mean, this is my profession. But
Right.
I've come to realize years in that none of us know it all. There's always something that,
Exactly.
isn't on the, it's like, I do know that, but let me clarify that because I don't remember
find out what you do about it or how to cure it or something like that. And I tell people, and I'm serious, not a day goes by that I don't learn something at work.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why we love our jobs too.
One of the reasons why I rarely get bored. I guess.
I find myself, like I said, sitting here at night on that, learning stuff off of that tree's Diagnostics Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 3 days, 4 days, a week later, I'm at a landowner or somebody calls me and I'm like, let me get back to you. And I'm sitting at my desk scrolling, trying to find that post because I know it's there. But I've used that a lot.
Feel free to post questions and pictures on there because you will get, everybody else on there is great. And I know people with forestry, the ones with UF, even people across the country, they will jump in and they'll tell you, I think you're correct, or it may also be this, or they'll ask you questions. Did you see sawdust at the base of the tree? And they're really a huge help with diagnosing things.
Yeah, it's been a great resource. I mean, for several different things and just learning in general.
Now, you want to be very careful with some Facebook groups.
Absolutely.
I'm a member of a lot of the gardening groups, and people will put a picture on there and they'll have a question. And oh my gosh, some of the advice and answers, I just have to keep scrolling. It's like, do I really want to jump in this conversation? Probably not. So don't assume.
Just did a class on that, and it's on Hernando County Government YouTube called Myths and Facts of Your Florida Friendly Landscape. in which Bill discussed some things, he's seen online.
Yes, I showed some examples that I've run across and saved. So don't always assume that because you have a question and somebody gives you an answer, it's necessarily the correct answer. I mean, we'll give you the correct answer, but if you're talking with your neighbor or your brother-in-law or some stranger on a Facebook gardening group who's not an expert in the field, it's just they've lived here for 6 months longer than you have, don't assume that they're going to give you necessarily the right answer. Sometimes they do, and boy, sometimes they really don't.
I'm a Pinterest fanatic. I use Pinterest a lot with my crafting stuff. The one that I come across the most is the sitting planter around your front yard tree, where they build it with, and they show you step by step how to do it, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that one on your?
Yeah, we should have. Yeah, because that's the same.
Yeah, we should.
As planting it too low or volcano mulching around it. It's the exact same.
Yeah, they build these seating. So many places want seating areas, so they take that tree and they decide to, circle or whatever shape, and they block it out with paver blocks and
right, and fill it up with the
planter, and it's like
strangle it.
Strangled and suffocated that poor tree.
Yeah.
I think on that very site that you were watching a couple years ago, that they had step by step showing that they were freeing this poor old oak tree of exactly that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of those out there, and it's just you cringe and
yeah, it looks nice, but it's not healthy for the tree. There in Pasco at the extension office, Whitney Elmore, she started the campaign called #FreeTheFlare. So instead of covering up the flared part of the bottom of the tree with mulch or anything, or planting it too deeply, you got to remember, free the flare.
Yes, Whitney is great. I get a lot of information from her right next door. She's pretty much right next door to my office in Pasco. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. So before we wrap it up, I see people are kind of giving us thank yous and signing off. I want to thank you, as always, for tuning in every week. We are planning on being back here again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. I have no idea yet who my special guest is going to be, but I can guarantee you.
I'm always your special guest.
You're the special co-host.
Yeah.
So you have a different position. You're the Ed McMahon, right?
Yes, I'm the Ed McMahon. That's right. Yes, Johnny.
Mona, thank you so much for helping out last night and helping out with Florida Arbor Day, and for coming on here today. I'll definitely have to have you come back. See, it wasn't that scary, was it?
No, it wasn't, but I'll get eventually.
See, these things are only scary just the first time, but once you just get used to talking to your screen and conversing and everything, it gets a lot.
With both of you on there, it's nicer. Last night, it was like I was talking to myself, so it was like
that gets weird. And I've had to do that, especially like when you're screen sharing, and if for some reason you can't see anyone.
Yeah,
it gets difficult when you don't have a face. For feedback.
I'm like,
but we do it. So.
Yeah, that one you have to get used to, and I usually don't have too much of a problem just talking to the screen, talking to my PowerPoint, I guess. So
well, we'll get together on some other ideas that I have, Bill, and if you need to bring me, you need to fill a spot, let me know.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, that'd be great. Go ahead and keep in touch. And with that, if you guys want to stay on for just a second, let me go ahead and log off. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
I'll see you. Bye-bye.